What's up again, everybody? Officially now, the set is out. Dusk Till Dawn is in our hands, and today I'm going to talk you through what I think are 10 of the most powerful cards in the set. I will say this before we start, the set is full of really good glue cards that really make heroes function in a specific way and kind of fulfill their role perfectly, so like role player cards. There's a ton of those, but today I'm going to try and pick 10 cards I think are just pound for pound the most impactful or influential for their respective heroes or play styles or overall archetypes. So starting with Prayer of Bellana. Why this one? Well, let's check the boxes. It's yellow, so it meets all the requirements for anything that looks you to charge a yellow card. It costs 1, that's good-ish. I mean, it'd be amazing if it costs nothing, but if you're pitching a yellow for this, then you're paying 1 and you're floating 1 resource, which is generally good because you can spend that 1 resource on like one other effect, one card that we might talk about later, in fact. It blocks 3. It's an action that blocks 3. It's fantastic. It gives a buff to your next attack, which is fantastic for what Boltyn wants to do, because with that buff and a card charged in the soul, you can go again. And then what does it do after that? It pops the top of your deck into your hand, most likely if you built your deck around a lot of yellows, replacing itself, and it allows you to charge. This is a card that replaces itself that also acts as a charge card in and of itself. So if everything connects on this card, which is relatively easy to do, you pitch a card, you play it floating a resource, you grab a card from your top of your deck, and then you charge a card. So like this acts technically as like 3 different cards worth of like effects, which is very good and really great for Boltyn. It's the kind of card that he needs. Tell me again if you think there are even better Boltyn cards in a comment below. Speaking of better Boltyn cards, this is the other thing you could possibly use your resource on, because if you're pitching a yellow for Prayer of Bellana and floating 1, well, after you attack with your attack action card, you can give this effect to your Raiden, and this card is quite nice. First of all, it's a block 3 equipment. That's check. That's really good. Block 3 equipment's spicy. You'll love to see it. Second of all, it's an effect that you can trigger turn after turn after turn after turn. You get lots of value out of floating 1 resource and then pumping it into this, because every single time you attack with Raiden on your turn for free after you've charged a card with your soul, with this effect on it, you're asking your opponent if they want an extra +1 attack on your next attack. It also just means that you can float this courage token onto your next turn. So this is a really good card as well. Great legendary for him, I think. Now we're on to Prism. I think the most pound for pound power comes with Aegis Archangel of Protection, and that's off of the back of the Figment of Protection. First of all, when you bring Figment of Protection in, you get a Spectral Shield, and at a 32 health hero, you're gaining 1 life essentially whenever you like bring Figment out. And then when you transform it, you have this 4 health ally that saves you 4 health, so it gives you another +4 health. So you're now a 37 health hero with this card. And if you manage to have a card in soul and banish it when you attack with this, you gain 2 extra health in the form of 2 spectral shields. If you're looking at ward as a mechanic that gains you health, then it starts to make sense why these angels are so effective, are so powerful, because when they stop the maximum amount of their damage that they can prevent, they are saving that amount of life for you. So just this single card creating 3 spectral shields and 4 gives you 39 health, like starting health. And that's what Prism kind of needs in this current meta, especially if you build her in the more controlling side of things, which I do think is a lot more functional and really interesting. Well, I guess both ways are interesting, because I do like the aggro version as well. Stick around and subscribe to the channel if you want to see the deck text that I'm going to put out for both of these. And if you're a patron, you already got a glimpse of that, because I put up a day 1 deck list for the Prism control build. All right. Now we come to probably the one hero that feasted the most from this set, and that's Levia. First of all, we're talking about Blood Dripping Frenzy. It's a 2-cost blue that blocks 3, so it's literally perfect. And then it says this, as an additional cost to play this, turn off your blood debt by banishing your hand, because then you draw a card for each card that you banished with blood debt from your hand. Let's say you just have a 4-card hand. You have this, and you have like a yellow to pitch. Okay, let's just assume that it's perfect and we're not floating any resources. You play Blood Dripping, you pitch the yellow, you have 2 cards left in hand. If both of those cards are cards with blood debt, which is fairly likely if you're building a blood debt Debt Levia, well, you're drawing 2 cards. Now, if those 2 cards that you banished were Blood Debt and also 6 power attacks, or 6 powered cards in general, well, you're getting +2 on all of your attacks. So this is Blood Rush Bellow, but only for Levia. That's really good. That's really good. This card, pound for pound, can get insane, and it is one of the best cards that Levia received. I know people are going to hate on this. I know. I understand. Everyone can thumbs down the video. Feel free to thumbs it down all you want. You can press the thumbs down. In fact, I would say press the thumbs down button twice. No, 3 times even. If you press it 3 times, I hear it gives it even more engagement. No, this card is so underrated. First of all, it is Arcane Barrier 1, and it is an offhand. Arcane Barrier 1's nothing to scoff at. You can play this against other rune blades and keep all the rest of your equipment if you wish. And there's some great equipment to keep that you can just keep, and this can be your Arcane Barrier 1. 2, the reason this is so good is because Vincent wants, or I think most excels is the best way to say it, at gaining action points and stacking up those big rune gate attacks. She excels at stacking action points, and she does it off of the back of the Eloquence token. You create an Eloquence token. I made this video last week on Friday, right? I pushed it out on Friday. You create an Eloquence token, you play a non-attack, and then you respond at instant speed, either from your banished zone with like Funeral Moon or Requiem for the Damned to gain an action point because the Eloquence token hasn't exploded yet, or you even just creepers in something. You creepers in like a non-attack at instant speed, and you gain another action point off of it. It's crazy how easy it is with just this card and Funeral Moon and like a good non-attack. Like I showed it in the video, just a Funeral Moon, a Grimoire of the Haunt, and a Tome of Fiendal from Arsenal allows you to go 3 attacks wide. This can go crazy really fast, and I really believe that this card is quite good. Tell me if I'm wrong in a comment below. We couldn't talk about the top 10 cards without talking about how wonderful this card is, both front and back. These are, I know it says 2 cards, but that is front and back of the same card. This card is so game-changing for Levia. I mean, it's the reason that Levia is more approachable now and more possible to play is because this card exists. Because you no longer die to Blood Debt at the end. It is bonkers how that one change makes her that much more playable, but it's honestly not that bonkers because she was playable before, and she could play slightly above rate on her attacks, you know, on her overall like being able to block ability. She was like good there. It's just that in the end game, if you had an off turn and you had to block your opponent, you immediately basically lost the game because you couldn't turn off Blood Debt consistently anymore. Right, you couldn't sculpt your hand to turn off Blood Debt as easily, as well, as consistently, and this card just fixes it. So this is, pound for pound, probably the most powerful card that Levia got, unless we're talking about this card, because this card is really good too. Why is this card good? Well, it's a 2-block, okay? You know what else is a 2-block? Crown of Providence. That card's pretty good as well. Crown of Providence 2-block, okay? What does Crown of Providence do? It cycles a card for you, basically allowing you to like fix your hand and set up the best possible hand, hopefully. What does this do? It actually does not block 2. Maybe it blocks 6. Maybe it blocks 12. Why? Well, because you're taking a card out of your opponent's hand, so if you time this correctly, their turn can just end. It's just over. Like, I don't know, Katsu, for example. Like, if you're playing against Katsu, which is doing pretty well in the overall, like, span of formats, I guess. If you're playing against Katsu and you block with this on their first combo attack, and they have a natural combo, and you cover up their first combo, and this takes the second combo piece out of their hand, what do? Arsenal pass? Like, that's basically what they do, right? So this card could just go and get things that you don't want. It takes the blue out of your hand, and now you can't pay for stuff. Lexi, the same sort of thing. Like, this takes away a card from them, essentially preventing like another 4 damage that they could have loaded in and fired at you, at least. So this essentially blocks 6. That's why this card's so nuts. I don't know why people don't think this card's nuts. It is nuts. Starstruck. Why is the card good? This just provides another form of damage that your opponent has to respect. And the crush effect is really good as well. When this deals 4 or more damage to the hero, they can only play or attack with attacks with base greater than the damage dealt. So if this crush effect goes on and they deal 4 damage to you with Starstruck, you can only play 5 attack things or higher than that, which means 4, 3, 2, 1, all off limits. You can't do any of those. Okay, so what does that mean for your opponent that's trying to defend this? Well, if they attempt to defend this and prevent the crush effect so they can have a turn and attack with their 4 attacks, they have to cover 7 of this, okay? That's a 1 block equipment and 2 3 blocks. What does that do to their hand? It gives them a 2-card hand and maybe an arsenal. That is quite good. You have already succeeded in nerfing their turn. And if they don't block this, well, their turn is probably nerfed. Depending on who you're playing up against, it's probably just mangled. And then on top of that, if you just choose to block with this card along with another card from your hand, it gives you a seismic surge. Why is that good? Well, let's say you have, I don't know, some big attack sitting in your arsenal, crippling crush, for example. If you block with this plus another card and you have 2 blues in your hand, you can still play Crippling Crush because the Seismic Surge comes from this off the Unity effect. You block with this, you block with the other card, you block 6, right? Let's say you block 6. You cover up like a Command and Conquer. That's really good value. You cover 6. Then you have a blue and a blue. The Seismic Surge pops, you pay 7, you Crippling Crush on the backswing. That is really, really good back and forth trade for you on that turn cycle. So this card's really good, and it just fills in that role player role. Probably like exactly what Bravo really needed, is more cards that kind of do this sort of thing. All right, we're down to 2 more cards, and one of them is a really fun one for me. Warmonger's Diplomacy. It's a 0-cost blue 3-block non-attack action card that could be played in Kano if you want. And it says, starting with the hero on your left, each hero chooses war or peace. If they choose war, the only actions they may play or activate during their next turn are weapon and attack action cards, which is very good. Like, look at the way that the explanation was worded in the spoiler notes of this set, or like the overall like product notes, and they kind of broke down how this works. It just shuts off like just about everything else unless you're playing instants. And then if they choose peace, the only actions they may play or activate during their next turn are non-weapon, non-action attacks. So this doesn't hurt Kano at all unless you want to use like Crucible on that turn, on your following turn, because you have to choose one for yourself. Don't forget, you have to choose one for yourself. But it does basically stop half of what your opponent could do on their turn. If you're playing against a warrior and you play this on them, they can't play non-attack action cards, or they can't attack with their weapon. It's up to them, right? And the same thing is true of like, I don't know, any other hero that likes to play a mixture of non-attacks and attacks, like all Rune Blades, for example, really get hit by this card. And if you choose peace, well, they're not attacking. They're just playing non-attacks. But you know who is? Kano, because he does everything with non-attacks, which is a really, really good card. And this is one that I think is really well designed just to give a little bit of extra choice for like Kano players, or just really any wizard players in general. And finally, it's if you didn't guess what the final card was, I understand, but there is one card that is just more powerful than all of the other cards in the set, and it's that one. That's the card. That's the one that's the most powerful. Why? Well, because it's so good, it deserved a reprint so that more people could play with it and more people could include it in their decks. Card's real good. Card's real good. Do we even need to talk about Crown of Providence? No, let's just move on. So that's my list of top 10. Let me know what you think about those in a comment below. I'm a big fan of this set. If you enjoy the video, make a number go slightly higher, and then tune in this week for our celebration stream. 14,000 subscribers. You could win something. As always, thanks for watching.